Hello, I'm Dr. Gareth Moore. I'm a puzzle and brain training author, but in this video I'm going to be looking at this, the Exit the Game Advent Calendar for 2022, the hunt for the Golden Book, and today is day 10. So let's start by having a look at the scenario booklet for today, see what's going on. Right, I shall discard, as I always do, the hints and solutions. I haven't needed them yet, but you know what they say, pride comes before a fall, so maybe I will today, but hopefully not. Right, so this is the information for the 10th of December. So if I can tear that out without destroying the rest of the booklet, let's have a look at that. Right, now I've had a quick look at this already. It says that you've left the ice cave, but now you're shivering. You find yourself in what turns out to be the Brother Grimm's writing room. And in the room there is some kind of manuscript, but unfortunately it isn't the golden book you're looking for, which is the point of the calendar, to find Santa's golden book of all the toys that the boys and girls want. There they are, beautifully written in order from top to bottom, all the famous stories and fairy tales of your childhood. And then there's a list of Grimm's fairy tales. The letters in different colours. I'll come back to that in a second. On the back of the page, you find a letter signed Grimm. There we go. And it says, your thoughts return to your grandmother. A true artist, she used to say, knows how to pull their inspiration from everywhere around them, even things that others would carelessly throw away. You turn back to the room with a smile. We'll have a look at the room in just a second. But in door 10, it says, if necessary, help along with the scissors. What does that mean? Behind it, you will find 3 strange items. Right, so let's just go back to those coloured fairy tales. And I've shone a light directly on a bit of paper to try and make the colours look exactly like they do to me. And indeed, they now look on my screen exactly like they do in front of me. But they're still quite hard to make out the yellows. But I'm holding it to stop the light shining on it. But I think Rapunzel, Snow White and so on, obviously those are the titles of the fairy tales, but what about these coloured letters? If I try reading just the yellows, for example, I get Azra, that's nothing, the blues, Renewey, the P's, and is there ever more than one? Yeah, there are sometimes more than one of a colour on a line. For example, there's 3 blue letters on the second line. Anyway, the tales are Rapunzel, Snow White, the Frogkin, Pied Piper even, the Bremen Town Musicians, Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel, Rumpelstiltskin, and Puss in Boots. Right, I think our next step is to go and have a look in the room. Right, here's the calendar. Let's find door 10. And I think, if I remember correctly, it's over here somewhere. There we go, door 10. Let's open that. Right, now, if you've been watching since the start of this Advent calendar, or at least the start of my souls of it, you'll remember that on day 1, we had to pop open just the tab to make a bin. And into the bin, we push some objects. Objects that would fit. And I made that noise because now I realise what's going on here when it says, true artist knows how to pull their inspiration from everywhere around them, even things that others would carelessly throw away. Which makes me think, and this would be very clever if so, perhaps I'm overthinking it, but maybe we need the things we put into the bin, of which there were 3 things. A cockerel was one of them. Anyway, let's open the door. Oh my goodness, okay, pushing in is the best tactic apparently. And what's in the room? The objects I pushed in. A worm in an apple. There's only 2 left in here. I think the others are bounced around in the calendar, sadly. And the cockerel. Now, the cockerel, actually, if you were watching, I think it made its way into door 7, which is by here. So imagine when I was picking the calendar up here, this layer here is not fastened onto the dividing walls, it's just sitting on top. I mean, that's fine normally, but if you're expecting a small object like that to stay put, it doesn't. Although I've just tipped all the I've tipped my objects off. So look, 2 objects, a wormy apple and a cockerel. And what does it say I was expecting to find in there? 3 strange items. I think they're the 3 strange items I posted in there on day 1, but unfortunately I've lost one of them. It must have gone into a neighbouring room. Let's see if it's in door 9. That would be very lucky if it was, because I've already opened that. It's not. The doors next to it, apart from door 1, have not yet been opened. Oh, that's annoying, isn't it? But first of all, let's have a look in the room, because maybe I'll discover that actually that isn't strictly necessary for some reason. So in the room we have the writing table that is ascribed to the Brothers Grimm. Actually, the Brothers Grimm is more than one person. So I guess they took it in turns to write in this room. Well, they had separate rooms. Perhaps not out of the question. On the left, we see a bed. Are these the pillow? It referred to messy pillows, I think. And look, there's feathers here. Is that a pillow pinned to the window with feathers coming out of it. I would note that the cockerel I just found in the room, let's move it under this camera, obviously has feathers and not so many feathers on a wormy apple. I don't remember what the other item was. I'll have to either watch my day one video or or find it. On the floor, just feathers, and on the roof, just wooden panels. Right, I feel I should read this again now I've looked at everything, because I'm actually a bit confused. So, a cosy looking room, it's cold. What is that strange construction over the windows with the pillows? But all of that is forgotten as you see a desk containing large inkwells and a few quills with a large book. A new idea occurs to you. Okay. Oh, right. I think I haven't paid attention. They are beautifully written in order from top to bottom. All the famous stories and fairy tales of your childhood. Now, each day we're looking for a 3-digit code to put into our decoder strip. We then slide in whatever number we think it is, down the middle, turn it over, and it gives us a sequence of moves to find the next door relative to where our current door is. And then we can check we're correct by comparing a combination on the door, like this one, with a combination on our decoder strip spelled out. So ultimately, we are always looking for a 3-digit number. In order from top to bottom. Well, my first thought is there were supposed to be 3 objects, and perhaps the colours or something to do with the objects provide the numbers. As in, for example, if that apple was just red, perhaps it would tell us to take the red letters. This doesn't actually make any sense what I'm saying. But there are 3 digits, and we are expecting 3 objects. So although I'm missing an object at the moment, perhaps that doesn't matter for now. The other thing which confuses me is this reference, if necessary, help along with the scissors. I don't know what that means. What am I meant to be cutting out? I don't see, unless I'm meant to be cutting out some part of the room. Let's just have a look at the calendar again. Yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing anything with the room. I won't talk about mechanisms of puzzles I've seen before because I don't want to spoil it, but it's theoretically possible you could cut something inside the room, but there doesn't seem to be any surface for leverage. So I think that it would make sense to try and work out, I'll zoom in again, to try and work out something based on the colours and my 2 shapes. Where's my other shape gone? The chicken. Very colourful. And one thing that plays against my idea of using the colours on the shapes is that the rooster is simply too colourful. And the colours are not particularly well defined. Well, I mean, there's red, yellow, red, orange, black, and white, just looking at the top corner. And then shades of green and orangey red, and it's not well defined. And I don't see that the size of the shape, the size of the object is large enough that putting it on the page in some places is going to have any really major significant effect. Even though I have to put 3 objects on here in some way, I don't see how that would help, and I don't think they fit together. So in what way the objects interact with this, I don't immediately know. Okay, this is the first time I've looked at a puzzle in this calendar, and no doubt I'm missing something fairly straightforward. But it's the first time I've looked at a puzzle, and I haven't immediately thought, well, I know what to do, more or less. Even if I don't know the details, I have a rough idea, or I know where to start, or I know I should probably be trying this. In this case, my first thought was to associate similar coloured letters. That may well be correct, but I don't immediately see how that works. True artist knows how to pull their inspiration from everywhere around them. Am I meant to pull a bit of the room out, perhaps? Even things that others would carelessly throw away. You turn back to the room with a smile. If necessary, help along with the scissors. Well, I'm not sure at all, but am I supposed to pull out? Is there an inlay in the room or something that I'm supposed to pull out? Is that too fanciful a thinking? If it is, you might never discover that if you don't want to tear your calendar apart. Let's try. Oh, look. There's an inlay in the room. Oh, goodness me. That doesn't immediately look, I should say, particularly different to me. I know they're different scales, but there's the original interior. Is there a change there? The clock is it's the same. If I look to the right, you can see a funny like half open door, but that's just because now I have the cardboard divider between this and the room next to it has shifted slightly, and I can't easily push it back without opening the other door. I'm obviously being very slow, but that looks the same to me. Let's look at the roof. Plain. I mean, obviously it's got a wood pattern. And the bottom, covered in feathers. Okay, so I've pulled this bit of cardboard out of the room, and it hasn't changed the appearance of the room, and it is blank on the back. So I could only think that this piece of cardboard somehow interacts with this puzzle, but I mean, it's way too big. And what would I cut around? The wormy apple does not obviously interact with this picture. And the cockerel does not obviously interact with the picture. Whatever the other object was that's lost in the depths of my calendar, that doesn't seem to interact either. And there's nothing to do with colours on here. I was just checking that I actually opened the right door, number 10. Yeah, this fits the description in the story, so it must be right. Right, I'm just going to check now what the other object that I had in day 1 was, because maybe that will provide inspiration in some way. Right, I'm back. I've watched my video from day 1, and it was a witch on a broomstick. So we have a wormy apple, a rooster, and a witch on a broomstick that has vanished into the depths of the calendar somewhere, as well as the room that pulls out. So I think these objects must connect. I don't know what the pulling out room is all about, but the objects must connect to the stories in some way. And I don't think they physically connect, because that's not going to... It doesn't cover stuff in a particularly interesting way. But perhaps it connects to the stories. Although, oh, Snow White is about an apple. So this is this is to do with the apple, isn't it? And the cockerel. I mean, it's a long time, if ever, since I've read some of these. I mean, I don't think I've heard of the frogkin. No doubt I'm ignorant, but nonetheless. And although I have read some of them more recently in children's books, they tend to be rewritten and also have, like, for example, people replaced with anthropomorphized animals and so on. So I don't know which one a cockerel would apply to. Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, that's about a wolf, not a witch. Let's look for the witch. Hansel and Gretel. They go to a haunted cottage or something in the woods made out of sweets, don't they? And is there a witch there? I don't know. Rumpelstiltskin. Oh, I remember that is the name. Puss in Boots is about a cat wearing boots. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I only remember about that. It's what appears in Shrek, and that's not useful at all. Rapunzel is about a girl with long hair. Well, there's an evil stepmother in that, I think. Snow White. Does that have a witch as well? Frogkin sounds like it's about a frog. Maybe not. And the Pied Piper. Okay, he plays his pipe, and all the children and the rats follow him out of Hamlin. I remember that. I remember being traumatised by that as a child. The Bremen Town Musicians doesn't sound like it would involve a witch and a cockerel. And I'm just totally lost here. So if I can match the apple positively to Snow White, how does that help me? And also, why does the room pop out? What on earth is that meant to pop out? Oh, I think perhaps. I'm just thinking to myself, I wonder if the room is not meant to pop out. And the only reason it's there, it's reinforced because you use it on day 1 to put the objects in. Oh, I think I wasn't meant to pull out the interior of that door. I've checked some of the other doors. I paused the video and had a check in case I was going nuts. But no, you can't pull out the other doors on the calendar. Let's have a look at the back. Again. True artist knows how to pull their inspiration from everywhere around them, even things that others would carelessly throw away. Okay, so I am guessing that that is telling you to look for the stories inspired by the objects that other people would throw away. So a story inspired by a witch on a broomstick, a story inspired by an apple or wormy apple, and a story inspired by a cockerel. That makes sense. Yeah, I don't think I was meant to pop that room out. I will ignore that thing I popped out. It hasn't helped me, I don't think, because it's identical underneath. But it's quite interesting it is printed underneath if you're not meant to see that. It'd be quite helpful, actually, if you're not meant to pull it out, to have a note there saying, put the thing back, you weren't meant to pull it out. But the thing about helping along with the scissors, is that trying to say, because if so, it's a very confusing hint. If we look down on the calendar on a wider view, I think this door has 2 pop-in points and 2 here, whereas this door has 1 pop-in point and 2 here. What I'm trying to say is the other doors are attached in 1 place on the top and bottom. This is attached in 2 places, but honestly, why would you need scissors for that? You could just go plonk. That is the weirdest, most confusing clue. Well, I say most confusing clue. I mean, that's almost certainly not true, but that clue was weird. It should say, if you have trouble opening the door, use a pair of scissors. Or something like, the door is more strongly reinforced in other days. Use a pair of scissors if you have the strength of... Actually, I can't imagine anyone ever being not strong enough to open that door. It's only got 3 little pinpoints around it. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. Let's come back to these objects. So I'll have to look up online what the stories are each about, because I do not know. Am I supposed to read them in the order of the decoder strip? So the decoder strip is red, blue, yellow, but there's no red in Snow White. I mean, I suppose it could be that Rapunzel matches one of the stories. But then red just gives me E. Oh, this is the first time I've got stuck. I really don't want to take a hint. That feels like cheating to me. I mean, actually, it's not cheating at all. I shouldn't say that. The calendars, I'm sure, are designed so that, you know, they appeal to everyone, because depending on your ability to connect with that particular day's puzzle, or maybe your experience of solving similar puzzles before, the difficulty level will clearly vary for you as an individual. And the hints help balance the calendar so that everyone can take part, no matter who they are. Yeah, I don't want to take a hint, but I'm stuck. I haven't taken any hints, but I have Googled Grimm's Fairy Tales and Rooster and discovered that it is the Bremen Town Musicians, so that's this one. And I have Googled Grimm's Fairy Tales and Witch and discovered that it is Hansel and Gretel, or at least that was the first result I got. So I'm hoping that those are uniquely identified stories. Oh, and the apple is Snow White. Let me put the light on again so these are more colourful. But what is going on here? I've selected Snow White and the Bremen Town Musicians and Hansel and Gretel, and surely I've followed the prompts. They're beautifully written in order from top to bottom. Usually that's just telling you what order to take the numbers in. Alright, so I have for the first time taken a hint, and I'm not proud of it, but I was stuck. And to be honest, I think I would have been stuck for a lot longer if I hadn't taken this hint. And also, I can't actually solve the puzzle, it turns out. Well, I mean, I can probably guess. But from the hint I've taken, I haven't read the hint very far, but I've discovered something I hadn't noticed. So I'm going to carry on from that discovery. Which is simply that, and I've kept these like neatly on my desk, but they're different colours on the back. And actually, if I just flash these around in front of my eyes in my office, my lights I have to have low to avoid lots of reflections. And so they actually are kind of both dark, look quite dark to me. On the camera, they're a bit brighter. So when I was just whizzing them around, I didn't even notice they were different colours. If one was red and one was yellow or something, I think I might well have glimpsed they were different colours, but I hadn't noticed. If I had the other object, and that is yellow or something on the back, I think that would really have helped. Anyway, I can blame the calendar for eating the object. But how does this help me? So if I have the blue object for Snow White, that gives me NOE, okay, which is an anagram of 1. And the purple object that's the hen, that's the Bremen Musicians, is an anagram of 9. I'm going to guess I can see, yes, a 9. Okay, well the other object is the witch, Hansel and Gretel. We can anagram green to make 3, can't we? I find that annoying, and also probably very frustrating to watch, because you had no way of solving that because I hadn't shown you the back of the pieces, unless you glimpsed them earlier on when I was waggling them around perhaps. So anyway, the answer is clearly 1. Forgotten already, 193. Right, here's door 10. I didn't solve that puzzle properly, and it's going to annoy me now for the rest of the year. That's a little melodramatic. It's going to annoy me now for at least the next like 24 hours. Anyway, 193. That not very well aligned. 193. Oh, hello. Goodness me. I'm exhausted after trying to solve that puzzle. Left, and then up left. And we should expect this to be circle, square, Y thinny. That's the official name for that, by the way, Y thinny. And this is day 11, which we will open tomorrow. And no doubt I will do better tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that, despite how long it took me to solve it. and even then I had to take a hint, as you saw. But I'd like to think that I had a disadvantage solving on camera because I was putting the pieces down rather than handling them in a way that would perhaps made it easier to spot what was on the back of them. But also having two pieces of very similar colours on the back didn't help because I'd lost the other piece inside the calendar. So that little retention thing, which I discovered by accident and confused me for a while, but was intended to keep the pieces in place and didn't work at all because I lost two of them. And yeah, and then I think the fact that there's no clue to look on the back of those pieces and that there are quite a few red herrings like about cutting out, which is nothing to do with the puzzle. I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to get confused on that, or at least I would like to think so, because that would explain why I struggled to solve it. Oh, and I'm not sure everyone solving the calendar is going to be familiar enough with all of those tales that they will immediately realise that the rooster must be the town criers of Bremen, or whatever that was called. And I mean, okay, the apple is quite famous, but I didn't. And there were loads of witches and loads of fairy tales, and I didn't have the witch anyway. Either way, I hope you will join me tomorrow when I hopefully have a much smoother solving experience with day 11. You can check my previous solves of days 1 to 9 if you haven't already seen them, and you'll see that I have generally done better. By here, a playlist of 3 advent calendars I solved last year, and by here, a playlist of 3 advent calendars I'm solving this year, including this one. By here, you can subscribe to my channel, makes it easy to find my other videos. Please leave a comment if you've tried this day and let me know how you got on, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, take care.